Hi, this is Brett Ingram, entrepreneur and award-winning product creator, and today I want to share with you the superpower skill you can use to master anything. Being an entrepreneur can be very challenging, not just because there's always so much to do, but because there's also so much that we need to know. There's so many moving parts to running a business, and all the stuff to run a business now is super important, and we need to learn all that just to be able to get going and just to be able to keep things going. But also, things are moving so fast that we have to have an eye on the future so we can be able to, effectively predict and adapt to trends and grab opportunities, or at a very minimum, not be buried by some trend or some change that's going to affect our business in a way that makes us not viable anymore. And so we have sort of the double-edged sword where we've got to be able to learn and master all the things we need to be able to do just to keep things going today, but we also need to know sort of what's coming down the pike there, so we know that we're going to be okay and we're going to be able to continue to do what we love to do and run our business successfully. And then when you combine that with the fact that technology and even life itself is moving at a faster and faster pace all the time, it can be flat out daunting and super overwhelming, no doubt about it. Some days you just feel like you need to catch your breath, and that certainly makes sense. But at the same time, hidden within these challenges is actually an amazing opportunity that's never existed before, if we're smart enough to recognize and to use it. So if we go back a few years, I had a business that I started and I used to run. And it wasn't really pre-internet, but it was basically when the internet was in its infancy. So it existed, but we're talking about that funny sort of robotic sound, the dial-up connection, you've got mail, like AOL kind of deal. It was very slow. There were very few websites. So sort of the digital revolution hadn't really taken place yet. And so everybody had dial-up connections. There were very few websites. A lot of people I knew didn't even have internet access at the time. But even if you did, there were very limited things you could do. And any sites that had any kind of images or graphics would take forever to load. So if it wasn't just straight text, you couldn't do it. And certainly there were no videos, because you could never stream or download videos fast enough to make it make sense. And so everything was very slow. So it's nothing even close to now. And it's important to understand that in context, because my business landscape at the time was, we basically built custom PCs and we shipped them around the country and we advertised in magazines. And, one of the things that I recognized being in a technology industry is that, the benefit that we had was we were a small guy, and there were a lot of the big guys out there. Gateway Computer was a big one at the time, HP, Dell was out there still, Compaq, which doesn't even exist anymore. There were a bunch of other players. And so they all had big brand names, we did not. And the benefit that we had is we could offer prices that they could not. And the main reason for that is A, we had a lot less overhead, but B, I could order inventory and get it the next day. So I could get stuff as price drops in technology, which it often did. I was able to use that savings, pass that along, some of it to my customer, and keep the other part of it as profit. But what I started to recognize is that some of the companies were getting smarter. They were getting better with their lead time, with their inventory. They recognized it was an issue. So they were cutting it down as well. So their prices started to drop and drop and drop. And I started to get concerned. I knew we were going to need to be able to make more sales in order to make this work. And I didn't really know what to do. I was a young, basically kid really at the time. And I didn't have a lot of options. I didn't have advisors near me that had marketing chops or any of these other things. And it just so happened that one day I got a letter in the mail, and it was about a book. It was literally a hardcover book, like an encyclopedia, like an inch and a half. And it was from this guy, Jay Abraham. Never heard of him at the time. So supposedly he was this marketing guru, and the letter was really persuasive. It was really well written, and it was all like small point text. There weren't a lot of pictures or anything. So I was even amazed by how taken I was with this and how persuasive it was. Basically, the way the story went is he had one of his friends picked his brain, got all this information, and then put it in a book and then surprised him with this book. And he was like, well, hey, this is copyrighted information. It was this really great, like, entertaining story. And the nuts and bolts of it were he was now going to be selling this book with his friend for, I think it was $200. So for $200, you get one hardcore, basically, a hardcover, basically encyclopedia. They'd ship it to your house and or your business, and then you could learn all these marketing strategies. He was this marketing guru. It went on and on about all the major companies he's worked with, and there's no doubt he had, serious cred and he knew what he was doing. So I said, well, geez, for $200, I got to try this because we need some ways to generate more sales. So I spent the $200. I mailed it in because you couldn't do it online, waited like 2 weeks, and then the book finally shows up. And when I started to go through it, I probably should have busted it out. I could have showed it to you, but I'll do that in another episode. I still have it. And it actually was amazing. It had all these sales techniques for ways to do things with direct mail and upsells and cross-sells and all these things that now are being used everywhere. He was one of the first people to actually put it all together. And so on the heels of that, I had put some information together and I thought, okay, this is pretty good. I think I can use this to generate sales. So then I got a follow-up letter, and the letter was basically saying, listen, for just $5,000, you can come and meet me in person at this event, and we're going to do this live on stage. We'll do hot seats. We'll explain like how to use all these strategies, all this other stuff, and we'll even let you bring a friend for just $5,000. Of course, you got to pay your own transportation. Happened to be 3,000 miles away across the country. But again, I didn't feel like I had a lot of options. And I had strategies. I saw the value in the book. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so my partner and I spent the money. We went, we flew out, we did the event, and everything was great. Like, we really liked the event and all this other stuff. So the long story short is, coming off of that, put together an email campaign, a snail mail campaign. There wasn't really email back then. And started sending these letters out with these bundle deals that we were doing. And it worked. Our first direct mail campaign generated over $23,000 in profit. So right there, we made back more than the $5,000, more than the money on the plane tickets, more than the money on the book, and all of that. Fantastic, right? But here's the thing. All in, it was big time money and investment. You know what I mean? Like, we spent $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 in real dollars to make that work. A whole weekend away at a hotel on the opposite coast. All the time it took to read through the book and do all the other things that we needed to do. It was a huge risk to figure it all out. So it worked. And I was really lucky that I did get that offer in the mail because I never would have been able to find it otherwise. But it was a tremendous amount of money and a tremendous amount of time that was spent to make that work. And thank goodness it worked. Otherwise, we would have been in trouble. So now, let's fast forward to the present. I recently had an email marketing issue. So, my emails had gone from generating, a lot of money on every given day. That was very reliable income source. I could send out my emails. I would make sales. I would make affiliate sales and make commissions. And then literally almost overnight, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but pretty close, it sort of ground to a halt. Everything went from a place where I was generating a lot of money to all of a sudden I wasn't able to generate almost anything. And I couldn't really figure out why. I was completely stunned by it. I'm technical enough, but I'm not an email marketing genius or whatever. So I started to panic and I said, geez, I got to solve this problem. I spent a couple hours on Google and on the internet and from my own home. And basically what happened is I learned all the aspects of email deliverability. I learned what goes into when you click send, how that email goes, how it's evaluated, what the issues are, what the things that the receiving email internet service provider looks at to see whether or not to deliver it. And what I realized is I had a number of problems with my setup. This isn't, I'm not going to get into the technical aspects of it, but the bottom line is I had some technical issues. I had some, blacklisting and spam issues. I had a variety of different issues that were causing my emails to get choked off, put in spam folders, and not delivered at all, which was the explanation for why all of a sudden the sales dried up and the commissions dried up, because the market hadn't changed. There wasn't any cataclysmic event that had taken place. Products were still out there. People were still buying them. I just wasn't able to make any of the sales. So within a couple of hours, I was able to figure out what it took. Now, it took a couple of weeks to get it all back to normal, because not everything, especially in email marketing, can be fixed overnight. You can fix the problem, but it takes a little bit of time to get the ISPs happy with you again. So it took a little bit of time to get things back to normal, and actually even better. So I was able to go from the levels I was at to something even a little bit better by making those changes. So it ended up essentially being a blessing in disguise. And so when I did that, that method also generated a lot of sales. So look, if we look at the first scenario, I had an issue and I needed to be able to make more sales. And so what I did was I found a solution and I implemented it. And then this time it was a similar situation where I needed to find a way to make more sales. I found a solution, I implemented it. But this time it cost me almost $0. It was under $100 anyway. I think it was $97 for one of the online services. To know that I needed that service was zero. I was able to find all the information that I needed, but I needed a tool that I didn't have, and I think it was like $97. And so I got an online tool or two in a couple of hours of time with basically zero risk. I mean, even if it totally failed and didn't work, I was maybe out $100 in a couple hours. So if we look at the two problems and we look at the two fixes, years ago, I spent thousands of dollars and a weekend 3,000 miles away in a hotel to learn how to get the results that I needed. A few months ago, I spent about $97 and a couple hours at home on my computer to get the results that I needed. I mean, think about the difference in that and how staggering and astounding that is. The proliferation of content and its accessibility via the internet has literally leveled the playing field out there. And it allows all of us now to learn and master anything we want if we know how to research it. It sounds crazy, I know, but research is the new superpower skill that you can use to master anything. And this isn't just business related. I referenced a business problem that I had and a way I fixed it. But I also, when I, realized and I looked around and I said, geez, what's the best thing that I can do for my business? What's the best thing that I can do for my, future success in the online world? And one of the things that I realized is building a personal brand, and I've said this over and over again, hopefully, you've started to do it yourself as well. Building a personal brand is one of the most important things that you can do, because it allows you to generate an audience that then you can connect with whenever you need. So it democratizes the whole idea of advertising, marketing, and promotion. And the thing of it is, I knew nothing about it. I was the least savvy social media person you will ever meet that was in technology. People used to laugh at me because I had a technology business where we would build software and I literally had no social media accounts even set up. I set them up, but I never even used them because I didn't really like social media. It wasn't the thing that I wanted to do. I associated it with sort of, just noise, and I wanted to focus on real business. It wasn't until I realized far later that there's a much smarter use of it. And so I knew nothing about it. And the way that I got to where I am now in terms of like running a podcast and doing all these, YouTube channel is all 100% by looking stuff up online, researching it, seeing what other people did, learning from their successes, learning from their failures, and creating my own situation. And then by doing it, adjusting on the fly. So everything that I try to do, I realize, okay, let's evaluate. Is it working? Yes, keep doing it. If it's not, change it. And so, I'm able to learn all of those things and incorporate it and do it. I didn't know anything about social media. And in a matter of a few months, I was able to get everything started off the ground and running. And it isn't because of me. It's because of the information that's out there that's all right there waiting for us. And here's the thing, this isn't just business related. These are all business examples because we're entrepreneurs, of course. But it's for anything in life, like any skill. Okay, research itself, it does take a bit of time and experience to master. I've looked things up, at times, and I've hit a dead end. I said, I want to learn how to do X, Y, Z. I type in a few things, there are no results, or these aren't really what I'm looking for. But then what we need to do is not give up. Instead, we need to consider other ways of asking the same questions or looking at the problem, framing it in a different way to find the answer. Because sometimes it takes a little digging. Even with the email marketing, if you just type in email marketing deliverability, you're going to get 100 different responses, and some of them have nothing to do with solving the problem. Some of them have nothing to do with the actual issues that I was experiencing. So I had to get more and more specific. I had to get more and more targeted, and I had to sort of work it around until I got to the answers I needed. But sure enough, they were all out there. There are people out there right now that are experts at anything and everything we want to be able to do. A lot of them are sharing their information. They're doing it for free, at least enough to know whether or not we'd want to pay for anything that they're selling. And we can go out and find it and become an expert at whatever we want. And we just need to keep going until we get what we need. It's all right there waiting for us. That is the remarkable power. When I was in college, my parents gave me an old Honda Accord. And it was like 10 years old already, but it was nice because it got me back and forth to college. And I remember one time I was rolling down the window and sort of the glass pane in the window slid off the rail and it went diagonal. So you couldn't roll the window up, you couldn't roll it down. If it was going to rain, I was going to have a problem. So I had no idea. I'm the least handy person you'll ever meet. I had no idea how to fix this. I had no idea what I was going to do. So I talked to my dad and he's like, go to the library and they have these books called the Chilton books. And you look up the model and make of your car, you check the book out. And again, it's like an encyclopedia. I mean, this guy is like 2 inches thick. And it's got diagrams and pictures. And it's literally model year by the car and all the different things you'd want to fix. And they had diagrams about how to unhook the door, undo the door inside your car to get at the window assembly, to fix it, realign it, and get your window work. And I did it. But I had to do it with a book at a library that I had to go check out and figure out and look at these diagrams. Now, in contrast, in one of my newer cars, I had a headlight go out. So I needed to replace the headlight. I spent 5 minutes looking up the model and make, replace headlight on YouTube, found a video, ran over to the auto parts store, bought the part for whatever it was, and replaced it in 20 minutes. The car door thing took me 2.5 days to undo the assembly, figure it all out. Now, it's a bigger job than a headlight for sure, but that wasn't the issue. The issue was I didn't know what I was doing, and it was a lot harder. With a video now, you can just follow along and do it exactly the way they do it. Trust me, I'm the least handy person you'll ever meet. I've replaced faucets, I've replaced shower assemblies, I even installed our own garage door opener. I mean, it's a miracle when I think about that because it's something I would never be able to do. And it's all thanks to YouTube videos. I had no chance of being able to do that stuff by myself. You give me a little manual with the steps, I'd never be able to figure that out. I'm also, by the way, not a good cook, but I learned how to make a bunch of really good food that my family really likes from recipes and videos online. And so here's the thing. If there's something that you want to know or be able to do, whether it's personal or professional, get good at online research because you can find almost anything you want if you dig enough. It's really that simple. So the takeaway here is, while we live in an age of increasing speed and complexity, we also live in a time of unrivaled opportunity. Because not only is all the information we need to do just about anything out there, It's also easily accessible by anyone with a mobile phone or an internet connection. We need to expand our thought horizons. Think about what we want to know and do, and then just go and do it. It's all right there at our fingertips if we're willing to go and get it.